It's Stanley Cup playoff hockey time. Is there any time better in the year? No. Tonight, I'll give you the stories making news behind the scenes that the other reporters won't touch. For you tonight on In the Crease. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Fiore. Great to be with you for another edition of In the Crease. This is the show that all the other reporters in town use as their backup source material. And tonight, I am wearing, this is probably one of my favorite hockey jerseys. It is the third alternative jersey for the Chicago Blackhawks. I'm going to stand up here. There, see that? Right there. There it is. This is great, isn't it? This is probably one of the best logos of all sports teams, and I'm certainly glad that the owners did not succumb to that, Indian nonsense they tried to pull a few years ago. The Washington Redskins are still regretting their decisions on that one. But this is a great jersey, and they don't wear these black jerseys enough as far as I'm concerned. I think they're absolutely great. I talked about the phony reporters. Oh, my God. The stories we've been getting now that the Pens are in the playoffs have been absolutely ridiculous. One reporter said, the Pens have everything they need to beat the Flyers. Really? Seriously? You wrote a whole article on it? Another one said, we got to depend on the power play to be done. What? What are you talking about? If you have to depend on the power play, that means that you're equal with that team. Come on! Get real. I mean, I can't even read the local stories. That's how inane they are, because they all have that Tom McMillan spin coming out of the Penguins' office. At least here you'll get the real story. And one of the real stories in this early part of the playoffs is that I have never seen the referees attempt to control games more than they are doing this year. Goals that should not be allowed are allowed, and vice versa. And calls that should not be calls at all being made and giving the other team power. It is so obvious. It's almost as if Vince McMahon is running the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's how bad it is. Probably one of the biggest aggressions, if you will, of the whole thing was what happened to Drew Doughty on the Kings. Now, I know the Kings are gone already. They were swept. But he was called for a penalty that wasn't a penalty. All right? And it gave the Vegas Knights a power play, which they quickly capitalized on and controlled the game from there on in. Drew Doughty himself had these comments concerning the call.
I don't think for 1 second that is suspension worthy. On the hearing and whatnot, we came to the conclusion that I did not intend to hit the head. I did get his shoulder, and the thing we kind of didn't agree on was that he didn't move or alter his position to make him vulnerable for the hit, which you can clearly see in the video that he plants on his right leg going off his left, opens up his left shoulder and tries to jump to the inside, and that's why he ends up in the middle of the ice. So I don't think it's suspension worthy. I think it's, BS, really. I think it's awful. And, watching the games last night, I guess he's got 4 or 5 more to give.
Now, I got to say something good for Drew. I mean, kid's a smart hockey player, because as soon as he came, you got to go, like, 1 game suspension for that hit. When he came back, he realized that, okay, just like in juniors, not only do I have to defeat my opponent, I have to defeat the refs as well. So he pulls a pretty sly maneuver and gets his comeuppance against Vegas. Take a look at this.
Running at a time here in the period in their power play. Doughty stands, marches off the line, and then whacks Doughty, knocks his helmet off, and Doughty's giving Marchessault the business.
A little ovation by Doughty. Go ahead, whack me again. The gamesmanship has been so elevated in this game. Drew Doughty wasn't happy in this game number 2. You knew he was going to have an impact in this game. Marchessault didn't like the way he rubbed him out. He retaliated, and I believe he's going to be the only one going to the box. Here it is here, a little shot, forearm shiver into the high back of Marchessault. Have to agree with him a little bit, but Doughty plays on that edge. Marchessault knocks the helmet off of Doughty, and little ovation. We talked about those 50-50 battles on the penalty kill, so important. Here it is right here, a little bump of the shoulder on Neal, a bigger guy than Lewis, and he's able to put that puck down the ice. Little chat afterwards, that's a good battle.
Doughty was on edge this morning, still 48 hours after he'd been suspended for a game, and he could not wait to play this one, and he's been front and center again tonight.
Yeah, and here it is here. This guy loves to get up for games, trying to get into the mind of Marchessault again as he picks up his helmet, gives him a little point to the mind saying, you got to think. This guy's been in some big game situations. He's going to stay out there for the power play, obviously. 1 second remaining, 1.1 to be exact.
Now, unfortunately, that one game didn't help the Kings at all, and they're now out hitting the golf links in the early playoffs. But so much of this has been going on in all of the series, that it's just amazing. I mean, even the Sharks, who were able to sweep their series, did so because every time the Anaheim Ducks would score a goal in Game 4, somebody was coming in and disallowing it for dubious, shall we say, reasons. What a bunch of phonies. I'll tell you what. Bettman has his favorite markets, and he wants to ensure that those get to a certain point in the playoffs, and it's going to happen come hell or high water, I'll tell you what. So, how do we do on predictions? Everybody makes predictions, and of course I make predictions as well. So come see, come saw how it's going in the first round. I'll be ready to put up my second round predictions real soon. You can check it all out on the Facebook page. Now, I've had a lot of people have a hard time finding that Facebook page. I type in the crease and I get flooded with, there's a ton of things that were named in the crease that I didn't realize that are on there. So what you want to type in when you search under Facebook is Netminders. Yeah, the Facebook page is not under In the Crease, the name of the show, because there were just too many of those in use. So it's under Netminders, all one word. And if you search for that, you'll be sure to find the show there. And you can follow my predictions for the second round and eventually all the way to the Cup. And feel free to add your commentaries and what have you. I'll be glad to chat with you. I've had some chats with some people that have turned out rather interesting already. So, hockey players are really good guys. They really are. I haven't been involved in hockey for a long time. I can honestly say that of all the sports I've covered in my career, the guys that are associated with hockey are really, really some of the nicest guys going down the pike. They truly, truly are. And sometimes, no matter how nice you try to be, things just don't work out real well for you. Here was a little girl who was cheering her team on, and just, if she could have gotten a puck, it would have made her day, but it just wasn't to be, especially with her two brothers on the side of her. Take a look at this.
Look at this adorable little girl banging on the glass. Brett Connolly saw her and just figured, I'm going to make this girl's night, right? Look, now here's the problem with being the shortest kid around. That kid grabbed the first puck from her. Now look at her face. Look at this. Is that the saddest? Look at her. She is devastated. So Connolly comes back, and now that kid steals a puck from her. What are we doing here? Are we raising gentlemen or what? So now Connolly's got to go back, get a third puck. If he could rip that pane of glass out and just hand it to her, he would, which would have been nice because, what are we doing? Connolly finally gets it to her.
That father orchestrated that because only the cute little girl was going to get it. He made sure all three of his kids got a puck.
But look at her, though. Is that all worth it right there? Oh, my heart's melting now.
Before the Stanley Cup playoffs began, you got to feel good for that little girl, don't you? She finally got her puck. Before the Stanley Cup playoffs began, there were questions asked around that possibly in the last game or two, teams were suiting up their top players. This way they could jockey for position for first-round matchups. This is one of the discussions I had on the Facebook page with somebody. Look, folks, if you don't think this is happening, you really need to take your head out of the sand, or out of the ice, if you will, in this case, because of course it happens. And they had all of the coaches, including one of my favorites, John Tortorella for the Columbus Blue Jackets, coming out saying, no, going into the playoffs, we want to make sure that we're saving our best players and that they're ready to. Come on with this stuff. What are you kidding? Of course they're jockeying for position. Of course they'd rather play certain people than other people. Get real with this, will you? But another thing that happened as the playoffs began, teams that didn't make the playoffs started axing people like crazy. Probably one of the biggest one was the New York Rangers, who got rid of Alain Vigneault. Whoa, that's pretty big. Here's the team's owner discussing why he thought it was necessary.
Jeff, first of all, thanks for joining us. You make the decision to let Alain go. Before we move on to where it goes from here, just a word from you on why the decision was made, when it was made, and how you guys as an organization came about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we went through a process over the last several weeks to decide what we're going to do at the coaching level, and talked a lot about AV and what he's done here, and just in the last week we made the hard decision that it was time for somebody new and a different approach, and it's a tough decision and a gentleman that's done a real good job for us, and we wish him nothing but the best and thank him for everything he's done here.
I heard you say the word fresh, and I heard you say that you want a coach to establish an identity. When you combine those two words, what exactly is the identity that you'll be looking for from the next head coach?
Well, I think, as we go through our interview process, we want to talk to everybody and find out, their ideas. But here with the Rangers, we like to play fast, and we want to play a skilled game. I think that's anybody we talk to has to understand that that's the way the league is, and that's the way we want to play. I think that having an identity, a lot of that comes in with the coach's approach and mixed with the organization. So really, it's showing up, playing hard every day, playing a skilled, fast game, competing for each other, and trying to win every game. That's what we want to do.
When you map out where this is all going to go, do you have a timeline? Do you have a date line? Do you sort of have a deadline on where you'd like to zero in on a coach?
No. I mean, listen, this process will probably take a few weeks here, and we'll go through it, and but as far as a timeline, we don't have one. I'd hate to give a date and then not come through. We've had that happen before, or I've had that happen before. But no, we're just going to go day by day and talk to these people and find the best person.
It certainly seemed like at the trade deadline and beyond that the mission statement of the franchise is to get younger, to get more skilled, to get faster as well, but to get younger. Does the same philosophy hold for a head coach? Because you want to go younger, is it automatically assumed that a head coach will be younger?
I don't think that's accurate. I think that we need to find the best person. We need to find somebody that can give us that fresh perspective and get to our identity. But as far as an age, there's not really a requirement there. We just want the right person to come in and get us going in the right way.
In terms of your job now, which is now twofold, find a coach and formulate a roster that you want to be able to compete right away. How difficult a job will it be to do one while also doing the other? Because you would think teams are formulated around a coach and coaches are formulated around a team, but you're looking to do both at the same time.
Yeah, I don't expect it to be too difficult. It's the New York Rangers, original 6 team, a great city. There's so much going forward here. We have a lot of first-round picks. We had a couple last year. It's an exciting time, and based on the fact that the phone's ringing and the names are coming in, it's going to be a well-sought-after job, and so the next person's we're going to pick the right person, but it's going to be the good person that comes in at the right time and helps us move forward.
You had a small sample size to assess some of the young players who came up, a couple young defensemen in Pionk and Gilmore, the young forwards in Anderson and Hedel. What have you determined as far as their NHL readiness?
Yeah, as far as NHL ready, I think that they both showed flashes of being NHL players. But again, we're cautious, right? They're 18 and 19 years old, respectively. So we're going to let that play out. But we've seen enough good things for an eye for the future to know that they're going to be good players for a while. But we'll let the summer sort that out, and what they do in the summer will have a big impact on what they do in September.
We hear excitement from the fans in some levels about turning it over, rebuilding, making it a younger team. We also hear some who talk about wanting to still sprinkle it with veterans and make it competitive right away. Certainly your goaltender has talked that way. Do you expect the team to look that way, or do you think it'll be primarily younger players?
Well, I think we're going to have a young look. I think we'll look at everything. There'll be rumors, there'll be names, there'll be all kinds of things like there always is as you head to the draft and free agency. But, we're not going to close our mind to anything. But you know, I think it's fair to say we're gonna have a younger team that's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be an exciting team to play.
Now let me tell you why the Rangers is kind of a unique situation. Vigneault, I don't think, was the reason for the Rangers' collapse. I think you can put that tag squarely on goaltender Henrik Lundqvist. Yeah. And I don't think things are going to get much better for old King Henry. I got to tell you the truth. You see, Lundqvist played a style of goaltending that I have been critical of since he first came in the league. He's a big boy, but he's a reactionary goaltender. And as such, he plays very deep in the net because he depends on his speed and his reactions for shots coming on net. Lundqvist is older. His reactions are nowhere near what they were when he came into the league. But he's still playing that style. And as a result, he's getting burned. The Rangers crashed, not due to coaching, but because of the goaltending of Henrik Lundqvist. It's not going to get any better next year. Trust me on this, okay? Now, I realize when it comes time to make changes, it's hard to point fingers here or there and say, we need to change this, we need to change that. So the coach is usually the first scapegoat. And since Vigneault was fired, Calgary and Detroit have done the same thing, cutting off their coaching staffs as well. But in the case of New York, the best thing they can do is move Lundqvist in the offseason. You heard it here first. Okay? You can't play that way and expect to be successful when your reactions leave you and you become older and slower. Just as an aside, Pekka Rinne plays the same way. It's going to bite him in the ass too. There you go. You heard it here first. There is a curse in hockey. The curse is that if you win the President's Trophy, saying you're the best team in the year, chances are you're not going to win the cup. Well, the President's Trophy this year went to Nashville. Now, there was an outside chance that Boston could have had it. Boston changed its lineup in the last two games and purposely didn't win it. You don't think this stuff happens? Curses are real in hockey. They are. The Nashville Predators have the President's Trophy. Will they be cursed and not go to the finals? Hey, here's the crew from NHL Now to discuss just that.
We start with the Nashville Predators, who clinched the President's Trophy with a win over the Caps and a little help from the Bruins. They are officially the best team in the NHL.
Yeah, I don't know if it was help from the Bruins. The Bruins lost, but, you know, it's help from the Florida Panthers, I guess. Bruins lose, and the Predators end up with the President's Trophy. So congratulations to David Poile and to Peter Laviolette and that whole group in Nashville, Stu. They have had a great year.
And you go from, what, 8th last year, scrape, scratch, and claw to get into best in the business this year. Why is that? Well, you've got great goaltending and had that last year. Yeah. You've got a good top line. You've got a great defense corps. For me, it's the middle tier of the scoring. And featured in last night's contest, too. Craig Smith has had a banner year. People like him. Kevin Fiala, you want to put him in the mix as well. Their ability to score with regularity, I think, is really an important part of the explanation.
Much deeper and fuller roster this year.
You say this about them now, and I don't think you said this in the past. They tend to be a little dangerous up front. They're dynamic. They can they can explode on you in an offensive way, and they check all the other boxes.
And we've heard a ton of players over the course of the season say that their goal heading into this season was home ice in the playoffs. They have obviously locked that up. So I think maybe they learned something during last year's run in the Stanley Cup playoffs and how important, you know, playing at home is for them.
It is for them. I mean, you live in Nashville. You've been there with that organization. You've seen what an advantage it is to play in that building. So it should mean something for them, but you do have to get it done on the ice. And the road will not be easy. It's still 4 playoff series, 16 wins, not an easy road.
Correct. I mean, you really had two-part, I guess, focus where that's concerned. They're really good at home. It's an amazing building to play in. Give those folks a little something to cheer about, and it becomes electric.
And they cheer.
Well, and look at the Stanley Cup Finals from last year. Had they had 4 at home as opposed to the 3 they had, it may have made the difference because they couldn't figure Pittsburgh out in Pittsburgh's building.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, one other good thing for the Predators with finishing finishing first now. They will play the winner of that 8th spot, right? That's come down between St. Louis and Colorado.
Right.
There's not a lot of, I would say, really, easy matchups in the playoffs these days. Everybody's very close together. And it wouldn't be an easy matchup against either team. That said, both of those teams have really struggled lately, and they're dealing with injury issues, both St. Louis and Colorado. They're kind of backing their way towards that spot. So I think for Nashville, wrapping it up gives them a great opportunity here to have a good road to at least start the playoffs.
Well, yeah, and we're looking right now at the recent President's Trophy winners.
That's so good.
And over the last 15 years, only 2 of the 15 President's Trophy winners have gone on to win the Cup. The Hawks in 2013, that was the lockout year, and Detroit in 2008.
And I think there's something worth mentioning here where the Preds are concerned. And it's not so much, is there a President's Trophy jinx? Don't really buy into that. But it's
You
more,
don't believe in the curse?
It's more about the expectation. And that's where I think the Preds are really, they'll have to contend with something they haven't had before.
Ever.
Now they come in with an expectation that's somewhere
They're
up
a
here.
favorite.
Rather
They're
than
one of the favorites.
under the radar, played their best hockey of the year just to get in, and they're playing with house money essentially. It's a different animal this year. It'll rest on the coaching staff and the leadership group within that Nashville Predators roster if they're able to kind of shake or at least address that expectation and play the hockey they're capable of.
It's tough at the top, right?
Yeah,
it is. Yes, it is.
You get everybody's best game. You get everybody's best game because you're not going into a matchup surprising anybody. They know what they've got. They're braced for what you're presenting.
Well, in most people's minds, they are the Stanley Cup favorites, so it's going to be fun to see what happens with the Nashville Predators.
I'm one of those guys, maybe because for all those years I played goalie, and goalies are pretty superstitious, and I was certainly too, but I believe in curses. That's why I don't think the Nashville Predators are going to win the Stanley Cup. I think they're done. Sweep them out. I don't care how many rounds they win, they're not getting the cup. All right, there you go. Hey, we had another coach that I guess before he got fired decided, you know what, I had enough of this. I'm done. Ken Hitchcock retired. He becomes the 3rd winningest coach in NHL history. Here is the announcement of his retirement.
A few minutes. Let's get to that breaking news in sports this midday. Stars head coach Ken Hitchcock announced today that he is retiring from coaching. The 67-year-old returned this season for a 2nd round in Dallas after leading the team to a Stanley Cup in 1999. The Stars had a disappointing 42, 32, and 8 season this year, and they did not make the playoffs. In a long letter, he says the game has been his entire life and that he could never repay what it has done for him.
Ken Hitchcock, I always liked him as a coach, but he's decided to call it quits, and we wish him well and say, kudos, my friend. Job well done. And I can see where this stuff could wear on you. Really good, Hey, one of the many awards that eluded me when I was playing was the Vezina Trophy. The Vezina Trophy is awarded. No, I never played in the NHL. I'm just kidding. The Vezina Trophy is awarded to the best goaltender in that particular season. And this year, there are 3 of them up for. Pekka Rinne is up for them. Connor Hellebuyck from the Winnipeg Jets is up for it. And Andrei Vasilevsky from the Tampa Bay Lightning are the 3 finalists for the Vezina Trophy this year. Now, I have a personal, gripe, if you will, against Pekka Rinne. The same thing I mentioned earlier about Henrik Lundqvist. And, he relies too much on his reactions and he plays deep. And it's serving him well now because he's still young and he has those reactions. But as the years go on, he's going to lose that. And if he doesn't adapt his style, he's just going to be another plug. One of the guys, by the way, who did successfully change his style and still Ryan Miller. He had to change his style drastically when he left Buffalo and went over into the Western Conference. So, kudos to him. Vasilevsky, he's young, he's strong, but I got to tell you, I think my pick for this year's Vezina Trophy is Connor Hellebuyck. And the reason is this, even though some of the other 2 guys might have better numbers. The Jets lost faith in Connor Hellebuyck at the beginning of the year. They didn't think he was ready to take the team over. And they brought in Steve Mason. And Steve Mason's a quality netminder, certainly. They figured Steve Mason would be their number 1, and Hellebuyck could be a nice backup for the next few years until he matured a little bit better. Well, things didn't actually turn out that way. Connor went on to take the starting position from Steve Mason, put Steve Mason on the bench, which is something goalies always like to do. And in the course of the season, he broke Tommy Barrasso's single-season record and set a new record for wins by an American goaltender. Now, that record by Barrasso had stood the test of time since 1993, and Connor Hellebuyck broke that and took over the #1 spot. So I think those are tremendous accomplishments for a goaltender all in one season, and he is my personal favorite for the Vezina Trophy this year. Hey, don't forget that the Facebook page is where we can have some interesting discussions going through the playoffs. So until the next time I come in front of you, in front of these cameras, be sure to get on to the Facebook page, search under Netminders, and let's start some discussions about the good old Stanley. Hey, that's all the time we have for today. We are fresh out of time. Until the next time, remember that when it comes to hockey, if you're in the game, you're in the crease.